Relationships after trauma. This is something that can be very convoluted, a bit difficult to navigate through. If you're new here, my name is Arica Angelo, and I've been giving dating and relationship advice here for 14 years now. So you are in good hands. One thing I want to say to anyone who has been through trauma is this, is that you're not alone. And the thoughts that you have and the emotions and the reactions that you have, while they may be embarrassing, they may frighten you and may make you feel like you're not in control. The truth of the matter is that there is no shame in your experience, that your feelings, your emotions, that all of them are valid. And I think people who have been through trauma need to know that what you're feeling, what you're experiencing is valid, and it is very messy. And here's the frank, honest truth, that most advice is not always going to be relevant to you. So when you've gone through trauma, make sure that you stick to advice that pertains to trauma, because it's a very different path than traditional dating and relationship advice. But when you've gone through trauma, listen, the last thing that you want to do is open up your heart and be vulnerable. So in saying that, I want you to stick to the end of this video, because I have a really important solution that you don't want to miss that can cause you from getting into this again for a second time, or maybe a third or fourth time. So make sure that you stay to the end, because I have a real good source for you to be able to look for things so that the history doesn't repeat itself. So when you've been through trauma, it feels like maybe the world is not so trustworthy, right? That you're not sure how you even let this happen. These are the thoughts that start playing out in a person's head when they've gone through trauma. The biggest thing that I would encourage you with is to be very gentle with yourself. And that seems very counterintuitive in our hustle culture. That says we should push and push harder. But when you've gone through relationship trauma, that's the last thing you need to do. The last thing you need to do is push yourself. The most important thing that you can do is to be gentle and be patient with yourself, which means don't go forcing yourself to get in relationships. And when you have a very strong negative reaction, what you may think or judge as negative, just understand that that is your mind, that's your nervous system trying to protect you. And that the reality is that you need to give yourself a lot more credit that you are doing the best that you can. And that if you had a magic wand, trust me, you would wave it over yourself and you wouldn't feel these things if you could control it. So that's why I encourage you, be very patient. Don't push yourself to jump in another relationship. Also, here's a helpful video for you. It talks about, will a person, a woman, will they ever love you after you've gone through trauma? Will they be willing to give you a chance? Check out that video. I think it'll be very soothing and helpful to hear what I have to say in that. So be gentle. Don't rush into another relationship. And when the irrational, and I do it this way because we judge these emotions, we judge these feelings, we judge these thoughts. But when they come up, just sit with it. If it feels like a very triggering thought, you always have the power to speak to that thought and say, hey, that's not really helpful right now. But the best thing that you can do is get around people who love you and allow them to validate the beauty in who you are. Because sometimes when we've gone through trauma, all we can see is the dark. We can only feel the heavy. And it's very important to bring some lightness back into our life by allowing people into our lives who love us, spending time in nature, getting some of that actual physical light back in our life. And the thing that I would encourage you with is, if you do decide to get into another relationship, don't be over vulnerable. Take your time and share your vulnerability in bite-sized pieces, meaning you tell them just a little bit about your experience and see if they're trustworthy in sharing your story. But the biggest advice I can encourage you with, and it may sound simple, but it will save you a lifetime, and that is, don't push yourself. Now, I want you to watch this video that says These are the signs that you should be watching out for. These are the signs that you want to avoid, especially when choosing your next dating or relationship situation. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe. And if this video spoke to you, let me know in the comment section below. I'll see you very soon.